whole 1990 truce is part of my intellectual properties. The word truce came from me. The word peace treaty came from me. The language hands across Watts is my intellectual thoughts. You know what I'm saying? I was a architect, organizer of that. The Shiites, Masjid Al Rasool is where the peace treaty was negotiated at. You know what I'm saying? The Shiites. When you go back to that history, the war between the Shiites and the Sunnis, that's like red and blue. One doing falsehood, and one want the truth and the oneness of God. The peace movement in the 1992 represent God back into the order of darkness. We was lost in darkness during gangs. We talk different, we hold our pants different, and we was murdering based upon a color. And when God got back involved, that movement went across the world. We had already marched in the late 80s with the message of black power, unity, peace. Because in us, the 88 group, you know what I'm saying, the people who was part of the 88 peace movement, Twilight Bey with the shaking hands of the Crips, Bobby Lavender, you know what I'm saying? This other brother from Pueblo Bishops who we used to go visit, who was part of the new movement, teaching us knowledge about unity. You know, it was already here. What happened in the PJs, which got them involved in the peace movement, is when Henry Peco was murdered. Dewayne Holmes, that was one of his loved ones, family member. He was murdered by LAPD. The Nickersons was always conscious, but when we engaged the Nickersons in our rallies and peace movements, out of all the Crips hoods we went to, it's like we always almost got into a conflict with them. And the Nickersons, they welcomed us. It was something in the Nickersons. You know what I'm saying? Mujahid, you know what I'm saying, who's architect behind putting this movement together, have always worked in the Nickersons with Islam about peace. During 1991, Mujahid, because of what happened in the Imperial Courts, met me in the Jordan Downs and was talking about Dewayne Holmes wanted to sit down with us in reference to squashing, because he wanted to do a march because his people was murdered by LAPD. At that time, I was working on the peace treaty. I said, good, because I'm working on the peace treaty. I got a document that I'm trying to put together, and I'm trying to do this and this and that and explain it to him. So we had our first meeting at the Masjid. He brung Donnie, Hank, and Big Gush, Dewayne Holmes, his mama Teresa, Red Rooster, and this guy named Serpo. I invited Twilight Bey and a guy named Alonzo out of the circles. And me and this young guy named 12 from the Jordan Downs went and represented, talk about this peace treaty, this concept, this idea. And at that time, people didn't know I was even a gang member. I even from Jordan Downs, because I identified, because when I decided to change my life around, I left the cars, the dress clothes, and everything. So when I came, I had on a suit. The Gang Truce negotiations started in the early part of April with incidents that was taking place, Henry Peco being murdered, you know what I'm saying, by LAPD, a guy by the name of Keith Stone who was murdered by some people from the Rollin 60s who was a member of part of American. These two incidents sparked the interest of me, because when we met Jim, we was about peace and unity up on a Stop the Killing with Farrakhan and creating jobs and opportunities. We kind of got away from the whole thing of bringing peace to the streets. You know, I wasn't involved with the Henry Peco organization, but what took place with this guy named Keith Stone, who was from Rollin 60s, because we was doing many ceases amongst, you know, gangs who had conflicts, the 60s, the VNGs, the Jungles, the Grapes. When Keith Stone got murdered, Henry Peco was assassinated, and that sparked the unification from all different directions. I'm from the Jordan Downs, Snipe from the Imperial Courts, Mujahid representing the Nickersons, Twilight coming from the Riots, to create a dialogue of peace. That extended up until April 27th, 1992. So we talking about 3 weeks of conversations and meetings and different stuff like that. And I used a language called truce. People didn't even understand what that language was. Truce means when you bring 2 opposing forces together, and the treaties is the declarations on why we came together. So that was intelligence on my behalf, because I looked at and studied wars. Studied the Punic War, World War I, World War II, the Revolutionary War. I studied wars, and I studied negotiations and articles of corporations that ended wars. And I knew if I took all the representation from different neighborhoods and we aligned ourselves and announced that we had a truce and that here's the treaties on how we gonna move forward, that it would have had international impact. So I engaged in this organization and making this come to life. We declared the peace treaty April 27th. The first boundaries was opened up was inside the Imperial Courts. The infamous Tony Bogard, because Tony Bogard created the war between Grape Streets and Imperial Courts. Tony Bogard was responsible from his influence for the murdering of one of my guys. But that's not him being innocent. My guy was responsible for something that happened to Tony Bogard's wife. And since there was no mediators and we already had semi-conflict, these guys clashed. This incident clashed, and it created a war, created bloodshed, means people going to prison. And there was no negotiator, there were no church leaders, there was nobody coming to try to break that up. If we didn't intervene like we did, this stuff would be still going on. Thousands of people's lives lost. And this is the beautiful thing about the civil unrest. National, international media came, and we became a spotlight. So I visualize that as the phoenix rising out of the ashes, the firebird. Peace is a word. It's an action word. And I don't think I would have been involved with this peace movement if I didn't make peace with myself. The problem with the people now today, most of these people who say they want to have peace don't have peace within themselves. You know what I'm saying? That's the first part of making peace, is making peace with yourself, making peace with your family, making peace with your mommy and daddy, making peace with your community. Those who are on the front line have to be committed to that process first before you can make peace with anyone else. Because peace didn't start overnight. Peace started with me in 1988. It culminated to 1992. Being on the front line, I had to find peace within myself. Intervention prevention, I coined phrase that name. See, these words and these names come from somebody. Peace treaty come from me. Truce came from me. Hands across Watts came out of this intellectual thought. I think some of these peacemakers are becoming poverty pimps. You know what I'm saying? You know, instead of solving the problem, some people like to keep it going on because it lines their pocket. It's just like prisons and probation and law enforcement. Without crime, you won't get a $1.3 billion budget. Without crime, you won't get a $900 million budget. Without crime, the criminal justice industry wouldn't be $232 billion. That's an industry for somebody to eat, to pay, to send their kids to school. So you got people out here who's not really looking for solutions because it monetizes them. It makes them who they are.
Thanks for watching StreetTV.net. If you're not subscribed, please hit that button below and click the bell to receive alerts and notifications. Feel free to comment below so you can give us your feedback, and be sure to watch the 2 related episodes to the right. If you want to support this platform or follow us on social media, visit the links in the description, and thanks for watching StreetTV.net.